And welcome back, everybody. The Old Gabbox podcast and radio show. Glad to be back with you. Was out of town last week. Back in the fold. All this brought to you by Casa de Campo in the Dominican Republic. Check out casadecampo.com. I'll be down in December. They cut the ribbon on Teeth of the Dog. Pete Dye, the late great golf course architect, designed 4 courses. Teeth is the best of the 4, although the other 3 aren't bad. Jerry Pate has been redoing it. Can't wait to get down. It is a great vacation spot. Best golf in the Caribbean. Check out casadecampo.com. All right, our next guest, longtime friend. Haven't caught up with Steve Russell in quite a while. And Steve is a legendary voice for Florida athletics down in the Gainesville area. And I'm glad he's still doing it after all these years. In fact, people tell me, and I go way back, that nobody knows more about Florida athletics, what's happened and what is going to happen, than Steve Russell. And we're bringing on Steve right now. Steve, first of all, it's so good to see you. How are you, my friend?
My friend, it's good to see you. Doing well. Retired from teaching.
Kind of. Right.
Kind of, but came back, do the radio show again, and I'm still enjoying that. It's not been an enjoyable football season.
Whew.
It's not been an enjoyable time with Billy Napier here, but, we can go into that.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about that. I wanted to mention it is homecoming Saturday, 4:15 kick Eastern time against Mississippi State. And Steve, back when I was in school, 1979, Gator Growl was outside. That was the big homecoming festival. And Bob Hope and George Burns and Robin Williams and all these guys would come on. And I vividly remember, Steve, Bob Hope. And I was Googling it because there's no transcript of what he said or his performance that night. But as he famously said, Steve, every time Virgin graduates from the University of Florida, a brick falls from Century Tower, which is the magnificent 160-foot structure in the middle of campus with the bells ringing. And as Bob Hope said, so far, Century Tower is still intact. And Florida Field went crazy that night. Steve, there's no record of that. But I was there. I heard that. Were you there?
Yes, and it's different now. They've moved to Flobit Field. I don't know anybody anymore who headlines the thing.
Right.
But it isn't, the parade is still a big deal. But as far as the entertainment and such, not what it was.
No. But those were good times. And I just had to bring that up because every time I think of homecoming, I think of that moment. And I was just a young guy and I just thought it was so much fun. But anyway, let's talk about today and Saturday. Obviously an important game for the Gators as they hope to get back to another bowl game at the end of the year. Mississippi State is certainly not Texas or Texas A&M. But the question looms, is Billy Napier already gone, Steve? That's what I think most people want to know.
It depends on who you talk to, honestly, Doug. I will say this, he's coaching for his job Saturday.
Right.
There's no question. I mean, if he wins, some people like to make a change in an open week, right? And the open week is coming up after Florida plays this weekend before they play Georgia. So if the prevailing thought is you're going to get rid of him, win or lose, okay, you let go of him there. Certainly if he loses against Mississippi State at homecoming, I can't see a path where he would stay. So I think the only chance he's got is to win this game and then get hot, like they did last year at the end of the year. The schedule, which is brutal, does lighten up. Kentucky's on it. That's a winnable game. Florida State is certainly winnable now, especially here. Going to Ole Miss won't be easy. But I think part of the fan base, Doug, is saying, look, we've seen this before, right? We don't want to be 7-5. Okay, great, you get hot at the end of the year. But in the end, you're 7-5. So that's the decision I think Scott Strickland has to make. The schedule is certainly much lighter next year. It is much more manageable. Kentucky's on it. South Carolina's on it. So, but for right now, it's just a lot of Gator fans don't want him here.
Yeah, it's a turbulent time. And I give him credit for kind of navigating the waters because there's got to be immense pressure on him. But I don't know, Steve. It just appears to me that things are putting in place, especially with all these other job openings around the country. I just think Billy is short term, if that's the right way to put it.
The thing, though, that's interesting is who do you get? And not everybody, a lot of people are clamoring for Lane Kiffin. Well, if I'm Lane Kiffin, why would I leave Ole Miss?
Agreed.
Why? His family's there. He's got it made there. He doesn't have the pressure there. Ole Miss was relevant when John Vaught was coaching. That was before you and me. So, now whatever he does at Ole Miss is, if he gets to the playoff, my gosh, he can run for mayor there. So, but he has always admired Spurrier. wears the visor, much like Steve, trolls a little bit, and Gator fans would love him here. I'm not sure, Doug, the administration would, because it's always been sort of a conservative, don't rock the boat thing. They kind of put up with Steve, if you will, because he won and he was different and he was a Gator. Lane isn't. So from a football coaching standpoint, great choice. But, the other things, I'm not so sure.
Steve, let me ask you this, because obviously the Penn State job is now open, and most people consider that the best job in the country that's open. Is it better than Florida if Florida does come open?
Yeah, define better, right, Doug? To me, granted, you're going to coach now because you're going to make a ton of money. If you get fired, you're going to be set for life. How great is life, right?
Right.
But if I'm going to go for longevity, if I'm going to go, am I going to go to Arkansas, for example, right? That's a great job, but can you compete? Right? Can you compete with Georgia? Now, it's cyclical. Things they don't stay the same. But, okay, I'll take a chance to go to Arkansas, but you might be a really good coach, and you might finish 6-6 or 7-5. You're going to get fired. That's just how it is. So where do you want to go coach? Do you want to try and coach at the elite level and go to the SEC? It's an ego business. I get it. Every coach thinks they can do it. But if you're looking for, job security, why go there? But somebody's got to do it. And, Signetti's name comes up here now a lot. Why would he leave Indiana? If you look at what they've given him, Doug, they've given him money. They've given him resources. Why leave?
Parity being what it is, and it has set in, and the 2025 game, it's totally different than it was 10 years ago, and you're right. There's no reason for Signetti to leave Indiana. He's got an incredible situation there. In fact, there's really no reason for Lane Kiffin to leave. If you watch that special that came out a few weeks ago about all his moves, he seems very content at Ole Miss, and why not? They're going to redo the stadium. He's getting paid a lot of money. Expectations aren't outlandish. Yeah, Steve, I think you're right. It's who's Florida going to go after? That's the prevailing question.
Well, and that is a $4,000 question, right? Look, to satisfy the fan base, boosters, whatever. I've been told they've already reached out to Lane Kiffin. They've already talked to him.
I'm sure.
Now, I don't think any decision's been made, but you have to make that call. You have to reach out to him. I've heard Urban Meyer's name get mentioned. Okay,
wow, wouldn't that be something?
It would be, and considering a lot of fans didn't ever want to hear his name or see him again, but now that's kind of changed because of what he did here and the success that he had. But if you really look for candidates, you can throw. Would Signetti be a candidate here? I'd call him if I'm Florida, but are you going to call James Franklin? I don't think so. Even though
he's available.
Yeah, he was in the playoff last year, and he's been a winner wherever he's gone. But nowadays, Doug, going 9-3, 8-4 doesn't satisfy a lot of fan bases, which is crazy. So who are you going to get that's going to, go for an SEC title once in a while, be relevant most years, and get to the playoff once in a while? Who's out there? I'm sure there's people because, you look for a Gator tie. Well, okay, Jed Fish. Okay. What's he really done? So that's the dilemma here, too, that, who do you go? John Gruden? Stop it. But that's the names that are being just bandied about. There just aren't, except for Lane Kiffin, in my opinion, clear candidates for this.
Steve, let me ask you this, too, because you're right there. You're in the epicenter, and you know all the movers and shakers. And Florida has as many movers and shakers as anybody, as much NIL money, I believe, as they need, and yet all the other sports, men's basketball, baseball, you can go down the line, swimming, etc. Florida's so good in virtually every other sport. Right up there, potentially winning national championships. You can't be happy where the football program is. It's got to be so disappointing to the VIPs who are behind the scenes, right?
It is, and I get it. Dealing with students, I was just talking to some of the graduating seniors. Think what they've gone through. Hey, when I went to Florida, we were below 500. What did you do?
Yeah.
Whereas, other classes, won a national championship or at least won the SEC. Florida hasn't won the SEC since 2008. 2008.
Yeah.
And for a program like Florida, that's a long time. But I also caution fans, Doug, we were here when it was wait till next year. Florida hadn't won a thing. So when you look at Florida's success, let's not get too crazy here. 84 and 85, those teams arguably had the most talent I've ever seen assembled on a team. But they got taken away from them, right?
Right.
Spurrier's teams, all really good, all relevant, and then Urban's success. That's it. That's it in terms of Florida football. So let's not go crazy. And this is not Alabama. This is not a school like that. But I get it. When you've had success, and that success came within a relatively short period of time. You know, the 80s until Urban is what, 20 years, 25 years? So a lot of success packed into that time. Well, now you expect that. We'll see.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there is the Spurrier statue, and that was a long time ago. But then you're right. From Werfel to Tebow, that was a short period of time. Boy, but there was a lot of success in that short period of time, Steve. I mean, that was the glory years. All right, I want to ask you this because Basketball Media Day is going on in Birmingham. Obviously, the Gators, the defending national champions. Todd Golden, in my mind, is golden. I mean, what an incredible job he did. And so many kids are coming back, Steve. The Condon kid from Australia, who I think is going to be even better. Thomas Houck, I mean, the kid hit one big shot after another, and he's going to be a prominent performer. But you lose the backcourt, Steve. That triangle, and Walter Clayton Jr. was incredible, obviously, but the other two guys were fantastic too. Different Florida team, right? Totally different look?
It is. They'll rely more on their front court. I just interviewed Todd Golden yesterday, in fact, before they went up. And we were just talking about this very thing. I think the danger, Doug, for them, for fans, even for media, is, you know this, I don't care if Florida plays Stetson. Everybody's gunning for them.
Sure.
You're going to get everybody's best shot. This is not last year. So how do you enjoy this journey, right? That's the challenge to me. The fan base is expecting it. Everybody's expecting it. This is a good team. You know, Boogie Fland, terrific player, right?
Good player.
But who takes the big shot? You know, Walter Clayton, none of those guys were afraid to take the big shot. And I'm not saying these guys are, but if it does come down to crunch time, who's got the ball? Who's going to take that last big shot? And then, you know, will the chips fall the same way they fell a year ago? But I'm right with you. He's a terrific coach. He's got great assistants who are very analytic driven. You know, I'm not a big analytics guy,
right.
But I understand it's where things are now, and they're really good at it, Doug. They really evaluate talent. And there's a reason, you know, why they're ranked where they are. And I think those front court guys are going to be even better. But they didn't have to come back. They were fringe NBA guys, could have probably gone. They decided to come back. They got a chance, but I hope they don't think this early in the year, if we don't win, it's a bust. Because if you have that pressure to start the year, you're not enjoying the year, man. You got to enjoy the ride.
I like the fact that they're going to start the big guys, potentially 6'11", 7'1", and I think 6'10", and Hawk is like 6'9". This is a big college basketball team. I mean, these are big guys, and they're not skinny guys. They're big guys.
Big guys, and they can shoot.
Yes.
And, you know, they got a couple of guys, probably, in talking to Todd yesterday, early in the year, I think they're going to try and experiment a little bit, you know, with the rotation, maybe go 8, 9, you know, Klabchar, I think probably the first guard off the bench because he, you know, played a little bit last year. Cornelius Ingram's son is on the team, CJ, and I watched a couple of practices. He's very good. Now, does he break into the rotation, you know, when the SEC starts? I don't know. And their schedule, non-conference, is ridiculous.
Well, you got to play a tough schedule, though, yeah.
Yeah, and he loves that. I mean, they got a chance to play Duke. They got a chance to play UConn. You know, national exposure. That's what you have to do when you're the defending champions, and they knew that. So I'm anxious to see how this season goes, but I just hope they can just enjoy this as they go along.
You know, I get a lot of ribbing from my friends, obviously, with the Gator football team struggling a bit. And I said, hey, we're a basketball school. And, you know, we've been a golf school for a long time. So that's what I'm hanging my hat on, Steve, you know?
Well, think about it. The athletic program here, you know, Jeremy Foley always, and I always gave him credit for this.
Yes.
He wanted women's athletics to be just as good as men's athletics. The thing that I think has slowed Florida a little bit, Doug, they were very slow to embrace NIL. They were behind the eight ball.
Which surprises me, Steve.
Well, I just think there's some in the administration who've been there a long time that just, didn't embrace change. And all of a sudden, here's everybody, raising this money, and they're behind. The coaches complained, and they finally caught up, to where now, they're competing. But it's interesting to me, what's going to happen with volleyball? What's going to happen with women's basketball? Last year I emceed a banquet for Coach Walton in softball, and they were auctioning off things. And Tim said to me, see all those things over there? Every dollar is NIL. That's what they were doing to raise money.
Wow.
Because we all know where most of that money is going.
Sure.
Right? So the challenge for them and everybody else is to raise that money and stay competitive.
I mean, I when we were talking a few minutes ago, I forgot it. Yeah, the women's softball team. They're a powerhouse.
Yeah. And good again.
Yeah.
And women's basketball, I think, is the sport.
That's the one sport that's always puzzled me.
Yeah.
Why they've always lagged behind.
And I think for Kelly Ray Finley this year, it's a big year. They've not made the tournament. They've recruited pretty well. So I think this year they got to make the tournament. If they don't, I don't know. And volleyball, with Mary Wise retiring, Tice takes over. They're good, but they're not elite. They're on the fringe of the top 25, and you kind of expect that with a coaching change. But I want to see what he does here as the season continues.
Well, Steve-O, we appreciate it. Oh, before I let you go, tell us about the old ball coach. How's Steve doing? I see him on clips here, see him, at this football game where he's honored before the game, whatever. But how's Coach doing health-wise?
He's, had some back issues, and he has a little trouble getting around. But let me tell you, he's 80 years old, Doug, and he is as sharp as ever. I always wanted to do a football, basketball, baseball show during, when I was on the air. And so I helped create the football, basketball, baseball shows. And I asked if Coach Spurrier could do it, and Shane Matthews, that we do Inside the Huddle every Tuesday at noon.
I'd love to hear that every day, yeah.
And Shane is my friend, but I just wanted Steve to have fun. I didn't want that to be work for him. I wanted him to come up and enjoy that. I think he does, and it's so fun to have him there, Doug. He remembers stuff I have long since forgotten.
Isn't that great?
Tell you, you know what our record was in 1990, Steve? And I couldn't know. You know what Eric Rett did in the third game? He knows. He draws plays up. He does a chalk talk thing for us, and he is so active. He went that when the Bucks had a reunion of their first team, he was down there. He rang the bell,
Wow.
on the boat. I mean, he travels all the time, and he runs a great restaurant in town too, Spurrier's Gridiron Grill. So he takes the memorabilia there, right? All his stuff. He changes it out, Doug. I'm going to put my golf stuff in there. Let's take that out. Let's put the golf stuff in there.
No kidding.
He's incredible. Yes, and it's a great place. But you can see his stamp on it just because he's got all his stuff there, and he wants people to enjoy, not only to eat and great food, but to see the memorabilia there, and he takes great pride in that.
That's great to hear. I love the coach. We're all the Gators love the coach, but I mean, he is such a special person. I think everybody around the Southeastern Conference, even though he antagonized a lot of people, I think they hold him in very high regard.
Well, they do. I mean, look, he and Bobby Bowden had their differences, but in the end, there's respect there.
A lot of respect, yes.
He and Philip Fulmer had their differences. You can't spell citrus without UT, all that, right?
Which was really funny, by the way. Still very funny.
It is very funny, and he would just come up with those things, and it was great because when you're on top like that, Doug, there ain't a damn thing you can do except take it, right? And that's what Tennessee and others had to do because Florida was so good.
Good stuff, good stuff. Steve, we appreciate it, my friend. I know you got to get to work, and it is awesome to see you. Keep up the good work.
Doug, it was good seeing you again. Good to catch up, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, buddy.
Okay, Doug.